Good morning. How are y'all? Everybody good this morning? I told Chris I got on here and y'all had messages this long. I said, God, do they know it's Monday? All of them are like little entrepreneurs here chit chatting. It's like, they've been up. Y'all are going faster than me this morning. Happy birthday tomorrow, Lisa. Good morning, Lorraine. I see Facebook's here. Good morning, Joanne. Okay. Are y'all ready to get this party started? Glad I have hair today. I'm getting my halo cut. It's too long. I want it cut to about right there. It's just too long for me. Today it's going to pour down rain again today. So I don't even know why I'm doing anything with myself because I'm going to get drenched. All right, let's get this party started. Today's topic is in regards to comparing yourself to others. I am the worst. I am the worst at comparing myself to others. And if I was honest with myself, I'm trying to think, why do I do that? Like, I compare myself to others in everything. From the way I look, my personality, my growth, my success, my personality. I compare myself. I am probably the worst person to talk about this because I have issues. I am a train wreck when it comes to comparing myself to others. Like, I remember when I was a little girl, when you have some type of addiction or some type of element that you can't get past, if you really dig deep, you'll find that you did these same traits as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll give you an example. I remember when I was a little girl, something just fell. Let me look at the camera real quick. Make sure he ain't on the ground. Make sure he's not on the ground. It sounded like the remote, but let me make sure. Yeah, he's okay. He's going to the bathroom. I remember as a little girl when Miss Alabama would come on, or Miss America, or something like that. I remember my mom loved to watch Miss Alabama and all that. And I remember being a little girl sitting in front of the TV comparing myself to every one of those contestants. I remember when, it was swimsuit, like they had to model their swimsuits, and all of them were like wafer thin and beautiful. I remember comparing myself to every single contestant going, I wished I looked like that. And I remember I would be depressed for a long time after watching the pageant, jacked up about the way I looked. Now, that I was a kid doing that. So if you struggle with something, if you think back to childhood, And you got to really think, did you, more than likely, this is not something that you've struggled with just your adult life. But if you look back at your younger years, you'll find that the struggle came from a long way back. It didn't start in adulthood. And if I even take a step further back, I think I've said this before, but I was a cheerleader at a ballpark. It wasn't like a school or anything, but I was a cheerleader at the ballpark. And every year, this lady made our cheerleading outfits. And I remember, you had to go get measured for her to make your cheerleading outfit. And we would stand all together. All the cheerleaders would stand together to get their measurements. And I remember sitting there. That man's struggling this morning. Got the oxygen cord all wrapped around his legs. He's going to bust his tail. Up walking around with no walker. Okay, he's back in the bed. We would stand there, and one by one, we would go up and get our measurements. And I remember being glued in to seeing like if somebody, I don't know, was a 32 bust, let's just say. It would be my turn, and I'd go, I hope I'm less than a 32. I can remember comparing myself to the other. I was like 14 years old, okay? Like zoning in on what other girls' measurements were because I didn't want to be as big. I wanted to be smaller than them, okay? And I was always the cheerleader, the big boned. Like I was the one that was the base, meaning they climbed on my shoulders. I lifted them up. I was never the person that was up in the air. I was always the one on the bottom. Okay. So like, and I wasn't fat at all. Like I wasn't. It's probably because I was stronger. But at the time, it was like I'm the fat butt. I'm on the bottom of the pyramid, But I remember being zoned in about measurements, like hoping that I was not as big as the other girls. Like that's some. But you know what? I was a young girl watching the Alabama pageant, Miss Alabama pageant. I was probably, I don't know, 8, but we watched it every year because my mother loved to watch the pageants, loved it. And my mother had no idea that I was so jacked up mentally about my weight because I'd never said it verbally. Because I didn't really understand it was a problem because I'm a kid. I didn't understand that weeks after watching the Miss Alabama pageant, I didn't want to eat. But I didn't know when you're a kid, you don't know how to verbally go, Mom, I can't watch this Miss Alabama pageant because I'm jacked up for weeks afterwards. I don't know how to say that, And I'll tell you another thing that I do is like when I go to the doctor, they weigh you every single time you go to the doctor. When you go to the doctor, the scales are always different from the scales at home. And then generally you're weighing with all your clothes on, with your shoes on. And you like when you're standing up, this is me. I don't know about you, but I want to take my shoes off and my jacket off. And like, wait a minute, before I get on this scale, I need to take my shoes off, put my purse down, take my jacket off. Because when I get on the scale, it's always like, I don't know, 5 pounds more. And then I go back to the doctor's office in the room and I can't even remember what's wrong with me because I'm about to cry because I'm 5 pounds more than I was at home. And I find myself, when it comes to getting up in the mornings, I tell you guys, I wake up a train wreck every day. And I do. Like when I say that, I'm not being funny. I'm being dead serious. So usually what happens is I get up, I go grab a cup of coffee, and I sit down and I try to scroll through Facebook, because usually during the day I don't really scroll. I'm usually posting. So I don't usually look at other people's stuff because I'm trying to concentrate on my social media and doing videos and posting and so forth. And so I don't really get to scroll through other people's Facebooks. Well, every morning I get up and I scroll through other people's Facebooks. And I find myself comparing myself all the time. And it's like, like, I don't know, like recently, I'll tell you some things that I compare myself with that is so silly, but it's the honest. I'm being raw and real and honest right now. But like, we had this friend and she went to the beach for her 50th birthday. And I was like, wow. And it's like her kids went, her grandkids went, her husband went, the whole family went. And I was sitting here thinking in my head, me trying to get my children or my husband to go to the beach for my 50th birthday would be like in the impossible. Like, how did she do that? How did she do that? And so they went to the beach and she's lost a ton of weight. She is drop dead gorgeous. She has applied herself, and I don't know how much weight she's lost, but she's lost a bunch of weight. She has long, blonde, beautiful hair, and she's on the beach, and her kids are filming, and her husband surprises her with a new wedding ring. And I thought, so then here comes the comparison. My husband would never, I can't even get him to, like, he ain't doing none of that. He's not romantic. And I started comparing myself to, like, my kids would never give me a surprise birthday party. My husband would never surprise me with jewelry. Sitting there comparing myself. And it's like, why can't I just sit there? I'm so happy for her. But I'm sitting here comparing myself, and I'm like, it must be nice to have a husband that would, you know, surprise you with a new wedding ring. Like, or it must be nice that your husband would just even take you to the beach. I hadn't seen the beach with Shane since we lived there because we can't go anywhere together. I mean, we can. We've got responsibilities here at my house, but I found myself comparing myself to everything that was happening in her life. And I was jealous. Like, but I'm so happy for her. I'm not like jealous where I'm mad. I'm like, I'm so glad because she's going through a lot. She was diagnosed with cancer again, and her family, is honoring her 50th birthday, and they all got together and went to the beach. And I found myself comparing myself to everything that she did. That is not something I'm proud of. Okay, I'm telling you the train wreck that I am. But every morning I get up and I scroll through Facebook or YouTube or TikTok, and I find myself comparing myself because, like, I don't know, there could be There could be a girl from high school that's dropped a bunch of weight. There is a girl. There's a girl that from high school that's dropped a bunch of weight, and she is beautiful. And I'm like, I'm so jealous. Dadgummit, I'm so jealous. I wish I could do that. I just have no motivation. I'm in menopause. I care less. I wish I could care. I wish I could care and get myself together. And I compare myself to, like, I compare marriages, I compare my looks, I compare the way I'm a creator to other creators. And again, it's not that I don't want them to be successful, because I do. I'm not like that, but it's almost like maybe it's jealousy. Like, cuz sometimes I'll ask myself, why do you compare yourself? Like, what is it, what is so jacked up that you find yourself comparing to yourself to other people? What is it? What is that all about? Because a lot of times, when I'm trying to figure myself out and I'm trying to break things down, I have to ask myself a bunch of questions like, what is all this about? Like, what is it? I think that a lot of it is the eating disorder when it comes to comparing myself to what other people look like, or the size they are. It's my own issues. It's the fact that I have problems. It has nothing to do with them. It's me. It's me with the problem. And, like, comparing myself to other, farms, let's just say. What is all that about? Is it that I don't want am I jealous and don't want them to be successful? No. I'm the biggest cheerleader. I'm cheering them on. So that's not it. What is it? Why am I comparing myself to other farms? Why can't I just stay in my own lane? Well, this particular day, most mornings I talk to my cousin. Most mornings. It's like a therapy session, okay? And so I was just like every single morning, I was scrolling through social media and comparing myself. And my cousin messaged me, and I'm going to share with you the story that she doesn't know impacted my life. So this particular day, that morning, I got a message. And the message was like this. Let me back up a minute. Over the past couple of years, I have watched her and listened to her go through the seasons feeding the birds. Okay? What I mean by that is her and her husband have done this for years and years and years and years and years. During the winter months, okay, in the freezing cold, and where she lives, there's a lot of snow. Okay, so like their winter months are really long. She lives way up north, and the winter months are really, really, really long. So, and it's not like here in Alabama where we get an inch of snow. I mean, snow. Okay, where you have to get the city to go out and rake the streets to get so people can drive, and she has to go get like snow tires on her car, because in order to drive up north, and this seems like a foreign language to me because that doesn't happen here in the South, But she has to go get snow tires because that's how you drive in the north because there's so much snow. Well, feeding the birds, I sat and I've listened and I've seen videos. She'll send me videos and stuff of her going out there in the freezing cold in the snow to make sure the birds are taken care of. And like I said, she's done this, her and her husband have done this for a long time. As a matter of fact, like, you know how like you put the bird seed in and then let's say it rains and the rain gets in the birdhouse? Well, she's the type she's the type of person that when the rain gets in the birdhouse and the bird seed gets wet, well, she ain't leaving it out there for the birds to try to eat because I don't know, it may get molded. She's worried about the birds not having food during the winter. So she goes and she takes the birdhouses down. She takes them in the house. She digs the bird seed out, the wet bird seed out of the birdhouse and re-puts the bird seed back in the birdhouse because she's afraid that the birds won't have food that day. Well, this particular morning that I'm janked up because I'm comparing myself to other people, she tells me this story and she was like, "You're not going to believe what happened." And I was like, "What?" And this was like early in the morning. And like I said, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I'm jacked up mentally comparing myself to other people. And she sends me a message and she was like, "You're not going to believe what happened." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, me and my husband," I'm not going to say names, "me and my husband planted this tree. We planted this tree and we planted it because her husband's son passed away. And so they planted this tree in his memory." Well, they chose a tree that would produce food for the birds when they're gone. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the story. Okay. Here I am. Okay. Here I am over here. And I'm sitting here comparing myself. I wish my hair was as long as hers. I wish I was skinny like her. I wish my husband would do things like her husband would do. And then there's my cousin over here that's going, "Okay, let me tell you this story." So they planted this tree in her husband's son's memory. And she goes outside. Okay. I think it's at night when this happened. Okay. She goes outside and there are caterpillars all over the tree. You know, like it was like the caterpillars are going to kill the tree. Okay. So she goes out there at night. Now she cares about the birds because she's been feeding them for years and years and years and years. Now she has been feeding these birds for so long, okay, that the birds know her. Okay. Like she goes out there and she says this little sound and the birds fly on her hand. And it's like she sent me videos and I'm sitting there, like when I watch the videos, I'm like, how in the heck? Like I want to do that. Like how did she get a wild bird to land on her hand? How did she get this bird to trust her to to land on her hand. Okay. But she has built trust. Her and her husband have built trust with these birds. So anyway, she goes out there and there's caterpillars all over her tree. And she begins to tell me, okay, you got to keep in mind where my mindset is. I'm over here scrolling through Facebook, comparing myself, and I'm getting this story. So she begins to tell me that there's caterpillars, like tons of caterpillars all over this tree. And in her mind, she's like, holy crap, there's caterpillars all over this tree. This tree's not going to grow. And I've got to do something. So she begins to tell me, okay, that she goes inside and she gets her golf club. And I was thinking in my head as she's telling me this story, I'm like, what is she going to do with the golf club? What the heck is she going to do with the golf club? So she begins to tell me that she gets the golf club and she starts whacking the caterpillars to save the tree. And I can only so it was like my mindset was on, oh my gosh, I wished I looked like that. Oh my gosh, I wished that my husband was like that. My mindset was there. And she's telling me the story about going to get her golf club, whacking the caterpillars to save the tree. And I'm in the floor. I'm like, so it's like I went from comparing myself to other people to being so in the zone with the story. I'm listening to the story. And it's like, you know how I talk about distraction? Like sometimes when you are depressed or your mind's spinning out of control, how distraction will heal you. Go clean out a closet. Go do something for someone. Go get outdoors. Go listen to the birds. Go feed the ducks at the park. Go do something to distract your mind from being in a bad place. Well, that's what was happening to me. Me sitting there like I do every single morning, comparing myself to other people, I began to get distracted listening to the story, thinking about my cousin whacking the caterpillars with the golf clubs. And I was thinking in my head, I was thinking about, like, she doesn't have a farm, but it's almost like she has a wilderness, I guess. Like I picture like all the birds in the community know that her and her husband feed them. So like it's like her yard is the known place for the squirrels or the birds or whatever, because they know no matter if it's rain, shine, snow, this couple is going to feed these birds or these squirrels or whatever. Like it's almost like they know, hey, let's hang out over here at this house because they're going to feed us in the snow. Like snow this deep, they're going to get out in their snow boots and start shoveling to get to the tree so that they can feed the animals. Like I think about that. I mean, I don't think it's a wilderness, but I don't know the word. Like I am picture this special place for these animals to come eat, and they know there's going to be food no matter what. So I'm into this story and I'm getting distracted by the fact that I'm comparing myself to other people. So I'm thinking about her out there whipping those caterpillars with the golf club. Like I can just see her standing there, what bam, what bam, just like, you know, get off my tree, like I just can imagine her doing it. And I'm like dying laughing. So I went from almost crying, comparing myself, to almost like peeing in my pants from laughing so hard, thinking about her whacking these caterpillars. And I was thinking in my head, like I began to like visualize, like where does that in her yard, where did she plant this tree? Like I was visualizing, like, where did she plant this tree? And then she began to tell me, she told me that they planted the tree because of her husband's son that passed away. So they planted it in his memory. But then she said this, and this was the most powerful thing. Whoo, I'm going to cry talking about it. Whoo, whoo, Scout's honor, I'm not going to cry. She goes, whoo. She said, we planted this tree in my stepson's memory, but me and my husband wanted to plant this tree so that when we're dead and gone, the animals have food for lifetime. And I was sitting there going, I'm sitting here. Whew, I'm going to cry talking about it. I'm sitting here worried about something so stupid. And she's planting trees for the animals to have food the rest of their life. So she's taking care of these animals when she's dead and gone. And I thought in my head, man, I'm really jacked up. I'm sitting here thinking in my head, like, who thinks like that? Who thinks like that? Who thinks about taking care of the squirrels and the birds when they're dead and gone? Like, can you imagine the impact of that tree? Like, let's think about that for just a minute. So this tree was planted in the son's memory, and they chose a tree that produced food for the wildlife so that these birds that live on their property would have food for the rest of their lives. They wanted to make sure the birds and the squirrels were fed when they're dead and gone. And I'm over here comparing myself to Betsy Joe. Judy, you really need to get a life. So that day, I was like, I want to be just like her. Just think about it for just a minute. So if you find yourself out worrying about something that's out of your control, or you're in left field, worried about something else, imagine if you were like my cousin and you said, I'm going to exchange these thoughts for something good. So I'm waking up, I'm jacked up because of the silliest things. So that day, after she told me the story about her whacking the caterpillars, no, I didn't go buy a golf club. No, I didn't do that. I went to the store. And my cousin doesn't even know this. I went to the store that day. And I said, I'm going to feed the birds. I went and bought some bird feeders. And I went and bought some bird seed. Okay, I was kind of shocked at how expensive birdseed was. Well, and I will just tell you, the bird feeder was $35. I mean, I'm sure there's some cheaper ones out there, but I didn't order it. I bought it from the store. So I didn't really shop around because I knew right then that story impacted my life. And I was like, I'm going today. I'm buying bird feeders and I'm buying bird seed. So I went and got the bird feeder. The bird seed, I was like, God, how much does she spend on bird seed? Because this is expensive. And I kept thinking about when she tells me that, when it rains and the bird seed gets wet and she digs the bird seed out, I'm like, that's a lot of trouble that she goes through to make sure these birds are fed. Because I can only imagine. And I was thinking as I have four bird feeders now. I love bird feeders. I have four of them now. And so as I was pouring the bird seed in, I was thinking, should I pour it to the top? Because what if it rains and it gets wet in there? And then I've spent all this money on bird seed, bird seed, and it gets wet. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to dig. If it gets wet, I'm gonna be just like her. I'm gonna dig the bird seed out and I'm gonna put fresh bird seed in. So that day, as I sat there and I was like, okay, I'm going to hang these bird feeders up, put them in. I don't know if I can get them to land on my hand, but I'm like, I am going to make sure that I feed the birds every day, or the squirrels, or whatever, the birds. And I was thinking about, I want to plant a tree. I want to plant a tree just like her and her husband did, because I want to feed the birds when I'm dead and gone. And I just thought about the impact that this couple, my cousin and her husband, are making on these animals. And she often tells me, because she sees my videos and stuff on Facebook and YouTube, and she always is like, you know, it's so cool to see you with Luna, or and I'm thinking, no, it's so cool to see you with the bird on your hand, on your hand, and but when I was thinking about this story, and I was thinking about several things. First of all, you have no idea the impact you make in someone else when you share a story. Because my cousin has no idea the impact she made in my life that day, because she had no idea that I was on the struggle bus. She was just sharing a story about her life. She had no idea that I was in left field comparing myself to other people. And there's a page on I think it's on Facebook. And it's called Healing Out Loud. And I like that saying, healing out loud, because that's what I do. I share a real story in hopes to help you and myself. And I thought, even though this person, she struggled mentally over stress, because she walked outside and all of a sudden all these caterpillars are all over her tree trying to kill her tree. And she went to battle for her wildlife that comes to her house. She was like, "Oh no, these caterpillars are not killing this tree because these animals need to be fed when I'm dead and gone." And so she goes to battle saving this tree so that the tree will produce nuts or for the animals. And she's just sharing the story with me. But she doesn't realize the impact. She has no idea what was going on in my mind and how that story impacted my life. And when you share and you share your healing out loud, you have no idea the impact you make in someone else's life just by sharing a story. You have no idea. I don't understand, like me telling you out loud my struggles. I don't know who I'm helping. But I do know that when I sit and think, so I've had this bird seed and the bird feeders up. I'm going to say almost a week. And this is what I've done. In the mornings, when I'm usually janked up comparing myself to other people, I replace it with watching the birds. So I'm taking a negative, bad, not in a good place situation that I do every single day. Why do I do that to myself? You'd think I would just not pick up the phone in the mornings, right? Like, Judy, get off social media, Judy. Judy, you're a train wreck. Don't even pick it up in the mornings. Just go straight outside and watch the birds eat their seed. But I try to go, okay, sometimes we do things and we get in a habit. So, in other words, I'm in a habit getting up, getting a cup of coffee, getting my phone, and getting on social media. And if I could get on social media and not be janked up, it wouldn't be a big deal. But see, I'm not strong enough to scroll through social media and not compare myself to other people. And I don't know, I hope one day that I can be strong enough that I don't compare myself to other people. But I do. But replacing the negative with the positive and a distraction will help you get past that negative, that 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 bad place that you're in. But listen, it takes discipline, because when we're in habits, it takes discipline. Did I just Oh yeah, I did. Don't follow me for makeup tips, okay? Don't. Because if you follow me for makeup tips, this is what's going to happen, okay? You're going to put your makeup on like a kindergartner. Just smeared it again. Replacing, when there's something that robs you of your joy. Me comparing myself is terrible. It's negative. I hate it. I'm not proud of it. I wish I could stop. Majority of it is from an eating disorder. Majority of it is janked up from that. It's something that I'm going to deal with the rest of my life. When you have something wrong, a disorder, an addiction, it doesn't just magically go away. But what happens as you begin to get healing, the struggles go from day to week to month to years from years. The struggle does it, it's not it's like in the beginning it's a day-to-day walk. But as you continue to replace that bad behavior with something positive, it gets easier. But it takes a minute for that to happen. But I'm very thankful for my cousin sharing this story because I feel like what my plan is am I going to never get on Facebook or YouTube again? Yes, I'm still going to scroll. But what I'm going to do is when I look at something and begin to compare myself, I'm going to think about the birds. I'm going to think about the tree that was planted for the birds to eat when she's no longer there. I'm going to replace the negative thought with something positive. And so far, it's worked. So far, I've been doing it for a week now. And I'm like, okay, when I scroll and I start comparing, I'm going to replace it with thinking about the tree being planted for the birds when she's no longer here because she wants to feed the birds. Have y'all ever thought like that? Do y'all think that deep? If you think about the legacy that you leave behind when you're dead and gone, like a tree pretty much lasts forever. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And if you think about the tree, I mean, there's trees that are over 100 years old that are the most gorgeous trees ever, right? And you think about a lot of people do plant trees in someone's memory. Well, what if you planted a tree for you to do good when you're dead and gone? To feed the birds. Like maybe it's a fruit tree, or maybe, of course, fruit trees you have to be careful with because they don't always last forever. But a tree that produces nuts, to feed the squirrels or feed the deer or the raccoons, like that lasts a lifetime pretty much. Like, I mean, forever. Like trees can be, I mean, you think about you dead and gone and the tree if you planted a tree when you were little and you go back to your house that you grew up with and you're like, God, that tree has gotten so big, you think about the impact a tree makes in an animal's life. That is an impact that lasts forever. Pretty much. Can you imagine? Like, just think for just a minute. Imagine being my cousin's neighbor. Okay. Imagine being my cousin's neighbor, and you're like picking out, like you're her neighbor, and you're peeking out the window, and she's out there with the golf club, whacking these caterpillars off the tree to save the tree's life. Can you imagine what the neighbor thinks? Oh Lord, she's out there with a golf club. Why is she hitting the tree? Can you imagine what the neighbors like be the neighbor across the street, like the neighbor that lives across the street from my cousin, and she's peeking out the window going, why is she out there in the front yard with the golf club? What is she hitting? You know what I'm saying? You know, like when you're trying to distract your mind, if you think deep, like just don't think about the story they're telling it, like go even a step further and think about more to the story. Like think about the neighbors are peeking out the window going, oh Lord, she's at it again. She's in the front yard with their golf club whack, whacking whacking the caterpillars. Oh Lord, the caterpillars are attacking the tree. She's crazy. She's out there with her golf club whacking them. You know what I'm saying? Like when you visualize, it makes you laugh thinking about, like, wonder what the neighbors think. I bet the neighbors won't tick her off. They know she'll get the golf club out and whack them in the head. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, um, it just makes me laugh. It makes me laugh so hard. Um, I think that there's two things that I want you to take away today. Three things. First of all, making a difference in someone's life. Planting a tree that produces food for the wildlife is an impact. That is an impact in your community. It's an impact in these animals' lives. You are feeding them for the rest of rest of their lives. You know, I think that's such a beautiful story. And sitting it out is exactly what I was doing. Getting up, scrolling through social media, comparing yourselves to other people. If you are single, let's just say, and it's Valentine's Day, and you get on social media and you see all these love gifts that people are getting because it's Valentine's Day, you might find yourself comparing yourself to other people. Like, I wished I had that. I don't have anybody. I'm sitting here single. I've got my dog. That's it. You'll compare yourself. If, let's just say, that your children don't speak to you, because I've had a couple of backup dancers that have made comments that they haven't seen their children in like 10, 12 years. Let's just say it's Mother's Day and you're scrolling through social media and you're like, I can't even get a text message or a call saying Happy Mother's Day. And you begin to compare yourself to other people. Or let's just say that you're in a bad marriage and have been for years and years and years, and it's just dysfunctional. But you feel like you can't get out of it because you've been married too long, and you get on social media and it's people's anniversaries or whatever, and the man takes the girl to the beach and gives her a new wedding ring, and you find yourself comparing yourself to other people. You're just like your Aunt Judy. I think comparing ourselves to other people, I think it's normal for us to do that. but it's not normal to be stuck in it. Like if it's Valentine's Day coming up and you know that social media janks you up because you are single, is social media really what you need to do on that day? What can you do for Valentine's Day to replace that negative comparing yourself? Go plant a tree that produces nuts so you can feed the wildlife the rest of your life. Go do something. Replace the love that you wish you had. Go replace it to give in love. And it doesn't have to be to a human being. It can be to as simple as a squirrel or a bird. I feel like sitting it out is doing what we do, is comparing ourselves to other people. You know, Friday I went to a library and I had the opportunity for this 16-year-old to be with me. And I had an opportunity to make a difference in her life. And I told her, we were talking about this lady that came to my farm to tour. She wanted to volunteer at my farm. Long story short, she was trying to steal the idea of what I do. So she's now a petting zoo here in Coleman. Okay? I told her, I said, listen to me. No one can be you. No one can be Judy but Judy. No one can be Addie but Addie. At the end of the day, when you're doing what you're called to do, there's no stopping you. So comparing myself, let's just say, to other petting zoos, okay? There's only one Judy. The other petting zoo, there's only one of them. They have their strengths. I have my strengths. At the end of the day, could another petting zoo come into this library and do what I do? No. So when you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, use distraction to replace it. Comparing ourselves is normal. I'm the world's worst. But it's been, when the story was brought to me about planting the tree and leaving a legacy behind to feed these birds and squirrels when my cousin's dead and gone, it was an impact in my life. And I thought, I'm sitting here comparing myself to other people, and she's planting a tree to feed the animals when she's dead and gone. Sitting it out is what Judy was doing. Dancing is exactly what my cousin was doing. It's planting a tree that produces nuts and fruits or whatever you're going to plant to feed the wildlife when you're dead and gone. That is a legacy that she's leaving behind to impact the wildlife. I'm over here sitting it out, comparing myself to other people. Am I leading by good example? No. Which is why I talk about it, because it's a struggle of mine. I'm not perfect. I have to learn how to dance. And it's amazing to me because you don't realize the impact you make when you comment and I read them. When you tell me your testimony, hey, Judy, I'm out here in the front yard with a golf club killing the centipedes, caterpillars, because it's trying to kill my tree that I'm trying to produce for when I'm dead and gone to feed the animals. She's just telling a story. She has no idea the impact she's making in my life by just sharing a story. So I hope today that you'll share your story. Share your story because you have no idea the impact you make in other people. So today is Monday and you have a choice. Sitting it out is comparing yourself to other people. God made you unique in His image. You have a unique personality, a unique talent, unique looks. God made you unique. Use your talents to dance. And I feel like just think about this tree for just a minute. This tree is going to grow for hundreds of years to feed these birds, these squirrels, these raccoons, these deer when this couple is dead and gone. That's what I'll call dancing. I'll see y'all Wednesday. Bye.